Welcome to our greatest American art form.
The mixtape.
Now, for all of you kids who don't know,
Traditionally, a mixtape is a homemade compilation of media from multiple sources, recorded into a medium like a CD, a VHS, or cassette tape.
what we are presenting to you here is something we call mixtape therapy,
A collection of authentic conversations,
often wacky conversations,
inspired by what inspires us.
except instead of a cassette tape, we are bringing you a podcast
So just as you might share a mixtape, we share these conversations with you.
in the hopes that they spark a similar connection to the good old mixtape.
And
Now,
join
join
us
us
for a little
for
mixtape
some mixtape
therapy.
therapy. Today, we are going to be talking about the Amazon series Dance Life, which is it's not reality because it's not like, what would you call this? I mean, it's like a docu-series
I,
about,
I think I think there's a certain so it's a reality show or a documented series on these kids that go to this amazing school in Australia to learn dance. It's like the school of all schools, right?
yes, the dance school of all dance schools that's supposedly this direct feeder into the professional industry of dance.
And so yeah, so I would say it's kind of a documentary, but it's a little bit of reality TV, So it's a little bit of both, you know.
I would say so. I just wouldn't say there's like a ton of interpersonal drama
Yeah,
that
there's
is
not. Yeah,
scripted.
it's not
You know what I
like
mean?
it's not reality TV like gotcha reality TV where like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of mic drops and stuff like that. It's more of following these kids' journey.
Yeah, I would say it's more akin to a documentary than reality
Yeah.
TV. Anyway, I guess I'll take it away first. I don't even know where to begin because this had such a intense emotional impact on me. Now, I think part of the reason for that is that I mean, it's well made, the music, everything, it is definitely edited and filmed to be very emotionally intense and yeah, I mean, just like really fun to watch. What's more fun than watching kids who are like phenomenal dancers, set to a bunch of cool music, etc. But because I had a childhood in which performing arts were really big for me, now it was nowhere near at the level of these kids, but it felt similarly important to me and similarly intense. I grew up acting quite a bit, and I had at least one experience in professional theater as a young kid that did sort of highlight or mimic some of the intensity that you see here, getting yelled at by adults, adults telling you that, if you fuck up, like no one's ever going to take you seriously, like a lot of that intense, if you want to make it as an actor, XYZ. And it just had a pretty profound impact on me as a kid. Um, so yeah, there's something about this show that seemed to harken back to that for me. Um, this show raised a lot of big themes for me, which I'm struggling to even articulate them. But I think one of the major questions or themes that this show raised for me is what does it mean to give up most of your normal life in order to wholeheartedly pursue a dream? Especially as a kid. I mean, a lot of these kids didn't receive normal schooling, like they don't have robust social lives because they've poured everything into dance specifically. And what does it mean to give up a lot in order to pour yourself into this one thing and be fabulous at this one thing, but also the thing that you are pursuing is really difficult to ultimately pursue for a lifetime. It's really difficult to be a professional dancer. Not all the kids make it, even though they are the best of the best. Um, and just kind of wondering more philosophically what makes for a great life, because the way it is portrayed in this show, it's like, oh, that's it's amazing, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to be the best of the best at one thing? Because it looks so cool and it's so impressive and it's so amazing. At the same time, what I'm wondering as a human is like, what is the cost of that? Um, yeah, what is the cost of going all in on one thing? And I think we live in a culture that really celebrates just being the best of the best, right? Like, kind of this grind culture mentality of you have got to give whatever it is, everything you've got. And I'm over here being like, yes, that is so exciting and compelling. But at the same time, what about like your mental health? What about living a well rounded life? What about, these things that don't seem as impressive, but maybe lead to greater happiness and satisfaction in your life? Um, so that's sort of like general thoughts that I have. There's a lot more to it than that. But Scotty, jump in here. What did you think of this show? What came up for you?
So, when Hannah asked me to watch this, I had no idea. I honestly like kind of when this happens. Like, you
Yeah.
get me into something that I would probably never go into myself. And, my next thought is like, what is Hannah seeing in this? And then I try to go like, what am I getting out of this? And so like I got a lot of the same feelings that you did about like these kids are really like, I mean, they're dedicating everything to doing this, they're sacrificing everything. They seem totally cool with it. They seem totally cool with the sacrifice that they're making, right? And what does that mean long term? What does that mean for like the rest of their life, And it's so weird. I just had an epiphany about myself just this past week that has to do directly with this. So that might be why this came up for us to talk about. But when I was a kid, I was quite the actor. I did like
Huh.
little plays like for school, and then I did plays outside of school, and then I did like one act play in high school, and then I did some like acting things in college, you know. But I never pursued it outside of really school or like a structure of like school. And and now I'm here and I do a podcast and do silly videos all the time and stuff like that. So there was this overall feeling that you know it's always been inside of me to be this entertainer and talker and all the things that I do. But why didn't I pursue it sooner? And why did I do it when I was a kid and then kind of just quit and then pick it up now like as an adult, right? And so I realized a couple of things. One, um, some people just have this incredible drive from a very young age to get what they want, and they don't need anybody else's help. They don't need any, they need help, but they don't need any help on their desire for their dream. The desire for the dream is simply strong enough because of individually who they are. And I was not that person. I needed someone to help me. I needed someone to give me permission and tell me I could do my dream, which
Yeah.
I think a lot of these kids like they're not asking for permission if they could do dance. They're like, I'm going to do dance, right? And then the second part of it is that I had two parents from a very small town that didn't know what to do with this kid that was way into like music and dance and art. And so I was totally different than like what they were accustomed to. They didn't know where to send me or what to do with me. And I don't think that they weren't not supportive because they didn't want to be. I think maybe they didn't know how to be. I also grew up in the early 80s. So, the internet wasn't around. All this stuff wasn't as easy to get exposed to and stuff like that. And so there's a little bit of me that's kind of like, well, fuck. Like I kind of cheated or wasted my life a little bit, you know? And so I watch these show and I watch how determined these kids are. And I'm actually watching like the teachers too and listening how the teachers talk because it was like very interesting. And I realized that on any given day that you decide that you want to be better and work hard and achieve a goal or try to do a thing or try to do this or do that, that is the first day of you being better at it. And the more days you do it in a row, the better you're going to get. Now, like Hannah said, a lot of these kids will go to this school and they will never. they won't become the like 1% that graduates that gets all these jobs. But that doesn't mean they don't have to stop being a dancer. You know what I mean? They just have to have realistic expectations. Well, how high dancing's going to go, and are they cool with that? Are they cool with only dancing on the side and now having to have a 9 to 5 job? Or are they cool with dancing on the side and living to their means of the type of job that they have? They go, well, I'm just kind of a backup dancer, so I make this income and I'm happy being a backup dancer. And those are all questions and things you have to decide for yourself. And the weird part about it is these kids have already decided. You know what I mean? And we look at it like, oh, it's this very extreme thing. They're diving all in. They're putting all energy into this. But people do that shit all the time with other things, especially like kids,
Yeah.
right? They go all in on their kids, diving all the way in, sacrificing everything. And a lot of times those kids turn out great, and sometimes it doesn't turn out well
Yeah.
because ultimately you can only determine your effort. You can't determine the outcome. You know what I mean? And if you're worried about the outcome, then your effort needs to be incredible. And these kids, the effort is incredible. And it kind of fired me up a little bit to go, there's no reason why I can't be a better podcaster. There's no reason why I can't be a better coach. There's no reason why I can't be a better dad. And how much energy do I want to put into it? And how do I want to go about that? And I think for the majority of us, if we don't have it when it's young, and it's not curated by the people that we hang out with, it's pretty much pushed dormant, if not pursued at all. And that's unfortunate. And it's not the responsibility of others to lift you up and give you confidence. But maybe sometimes we don't choose the people that would to benefit our life the most. We choose the people we think should be in our life or the things we should do or whatever, instead of really leaning into what we really want. And these kids are really leaning into what they want. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that is it's super cool because that's how everyone should be about some aspect of their life with balance, but some
Yeah.
aspect of their life should be their passion, their purpose. You know, these kids have found their purpose at a really young age. I knew my purpose, pushed it away, avoided it, didn't get it supported to bring it all the way back around and to be here now. I just really wish that I would have had some of the stuff that they have because I think that, you were like, is this bad? I don't think it's bad as long as you understand the overall the overall magnitude of the whole thing. It's not bad, but to your point, you could get lost and be so deep into one thing. Like people get so deep into their kids, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if that really like said anything other than the fact that like, you know, I think it's good to have passion and purpose. And if you want to do your passion and purpose, you're gonna have to put in the work. And that was, I watched one episode, but that's really what I got from it. And everybody there wants it. It
So
seems
bad.
like so
So
bad,
bad.
right? And there
Yeah.
and there are people there that are not going to get it probably because they aren't physically tough and mentally tough, and that's unfortunate. But when you really want something and you want to be the best, there are just things that are going to come along with it that it's the balance. It's
Mhm.
all the super superior positives has to have some sort of negatives, and one of the negatives is that you might not have much of a home life, or I have a lot of friends. The one girl was like, I've never drank in my entire life because everything's about dance, which I don't think is a bad thing. And so I think that there's a lot of what they're doing is what we all should do, but for some reason we don't do it, and I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know why that is.
Okay. So many thoughts. One, I am curious about your idea that if the people who aren't going to make it in that top 1% just didn't have enough grit physically or mentally, I would challenge that. I mean, I think there is such a thing as just you can't not everyone can make it. And if everyone was, I think I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know the ins and outs of these kids, but I would imagine each of these kids is giving it fucking everything they have, right? And I do think there is just limited room, right? And I do think there's an element of luck or genetics or just like the perfect environment or factors that allow certain people to thrive. I mean, it's a mystery, right? People have been talking and writing books about this. It's like, how do the people at the top make it to the top? And I think we have a little bit of a capitalist myth that if everyone just tried harder, they would get there. And I do think that's a little bit of a fallacy, right? Because there's only 1%. Like there is only 1% to be had. Um, that was just one thing that I would challenge. I mean, I don't know the answer. Maybe if everyone tried harder, but I think there are like so many things come into play, like your body type. Like I have this, it sounds silly, but I do have this like little grief wound because I really wanted to be a ballerina because like, you know, so many little girls want to do that. And my teacher, who was kind of an asshole, when I was in first grade, right, told me that I couldn't keep dancing unless I learned to bring my flat feet off the ground. She obviously didn't understand what flat feet are. You can't make a fake arch out of flat feet. And basically told me like I can't dance because of my feet, right? But I'm born with the feet I have, you know, that's kind of just how it is. Which totally discouraged me from dancing, which is a shame. Um, where else was I? Also, Scottie, I didn't know that you were super into acting. Of course you are. I mean, it makes total sense. But and of course we share that in common, right? We love to talk and we love to be seen and all these other things. And when I have recommended this show to my friends, and a lot of my friends are performers or performer adjacent, a lot of them grew up um, acting and performing and all these things. That's how I made a lot of my friends because I was briefly an actor in Austin. Very, you know, didn't make any kind of impressive progress on that, but I had an agent and I auditioned and did things like that. Um, and as I'm recommending this to my friends, I say, you know, it's amazing and it's a fabulous show. And be warned, I think you will experience some grief when you watch it. Similar to what you were saying, Scottie, right? It's like, damn, like if I had just gone for it more, or if I had more support, like I wish that, you know, that could have been me. Maybe not with dance, but with something, right? Like that could have been me because I did have this passion and I did love this as a kid. And if anyway, I'm curious if that's sort of what you were describing, right? There's like a little bit of that pang in the heart of like, damn, you know, maybe that could have been me on some level because I had this talent or I had this passion, but for a variety of factors, I just didn't get to pursue it at any kind of level that would have led me, you know, to
I,
the, yeah.
I don't know if this is the same, but I had a I had a feeling over the last it's happened over the last 6 months that man, I'm just really upset with how much time I wasted in college, like
Mhm.
just like getting drunk and partying, and
Totally.
all the things I could have done if I hadn't have done that. But that also taught me a lot too. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Um, and so yeah, there's a little like kind of like grief or like sadness around the idea that like
A contender.
doing
Sorry.
I could have been doing things this okay. There's grief in thinking I could have been doing things that I love
Yeah.
my whole life.
Mm.
But I thought to do something I love, I either have to be the best or someone has to support me or, you know, but you can do whatever you love. You don't have like, and in fact, like doing something you love, like shouldn't really be determined on any other person. It should really just be determined on you, right? So, you know, I think what I'm really upset about is that I knew I loved these things, but I I turned that love off for, you know, lack of support, better judgment by my parents, things I had to do, things that seemed more important at the time, going out and partying with my friends instead of like really diving in, reinvesting into myself. But I do that now, and it's weird because like pretty soon I'm going to be 50, and I think about what could I what I did in the last 10 years and what could I do in the next 10 years, being that I'm sitting in this mindset right now. Like my life's not over. And I think that there's also a part of like we get past that childhood and then we're like, well, can't be a dancer no more. And I mean, 100%, there's examples all over TikTok of like old ladies doing ballet. And like, I mean, there's all these examples of people doing the things they love and not being the right person to do it.
Mm,
But they don't do it because they need you to recognize that they're the best or whatever. They do it because they love it. And on some level, those kids really are too. They really
mm,
are doing that thing because they don't have any really responsibilities. They're kids. Then maybe they have a job, you know what I mean? They don't have any kids of their own. They probably don't pay rent. You know, they're all under like 18, I think. I mean, so it's like, yeah, like, you know, you have the, but just because you get a regular job doesn't mean you can stop having a purpose or loving your passion. You're just going to have to manage your energy and where you put it more appropriately. So you're going to have to ask yourself, do I want to go to happy hour on Friday, or do I want to do another episode of my podcast?
mm,
You
mm.
know, do I want to binge watch Dance Life, or do I want to, you know, do a podcast with Hannah? And now I get to do both. You know what I mean? But the point is that like you have to make those choices. No one's going to encourage you to make the right choice. Nobody's encouraging these kids to make the right choice. They're making the right choice because they want it, and you have to want it. Nobody's going to want it more. I think that even the lady says on it that one of the teachers said, if you want it more than I do, wow, I forgot what she said, but I was like, yeah, like, you know what
I
I mean?
can't want it more for you than you want it for
Yeah,
you,
I
or
can't
something
want
like
it more
that.
for you. You have to want it. And I find that in my job too. I'm sure you find that in your job. You have to want to be better. You can't just come to the therapist or come to the coach and go, I want to be better, make me better.
Yeah.
Because if it was that easy, you wouldn't even need us. You would just go and make it better and then come back. But it's not that easy. You got to really invest and dig into yourself, you know?
Yes. Oh man. I would say though, right? I first of all, I do believe that maybe that so many things are true. Like I do, these kids obviously want it so badly, and they are exceptional human beings, right? Like they are exceptional. In fact, one of the thoughts I had is like, people are talking about how Gen Z is soft and lazy. I'm like, look at these fucking Gen Zers. Like they are beating my ass in every capacity, like they are putting me to shame. Um, but I do think, right, like the thing that comes to mind is like Venus and Serena Williams, right? Like their father, for better or for worse. And I do think, right, we have to talk about there is a dark side to pursuing something so doggedly. Not for everyone, but I think for a lot of people, right? Look at so many professional athletes and actors and singers who've had like these really, really dark moments. They die by overdose or suicide. That is a thing, because I do believe there is a dark side to this. Um, but sorry, back to Venus and Serena Williams. Their dad like knew that he wanted tennis players before they were born, and there is something to that, right? Like your environment does matter. If your family, for better or for worse, is like molding you to be fabulous, you are definitely going to have a better chance at succeeding than someone who is born to a family that's like, what is dance, what is tennis, you know what I mean? And I know there are those exceptional people who, in spite of not having a family that's super supportive, do make it. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that having an environment and having, whether it's parents or really really strong mentors who believe in you, that's like an undeniable leg up, especially when you're a kid, because like kids are kids, right? They don't like, I don't know, they don't I think it's a rare kid that like knows that they want to be professional XYZ at like 10. I think a lot of kids need nurture and support in all walks of life. Um, so I think that is also a factor. And I can feel that maybe a little bit in what both of us are saying. It's like, yeah, I loved this thing. It would have been dope if some adult was like, hey, like, you've got something, I believe in you. I mean, for me, I think that would have gone a long way. And then anytime I did get positive reinforcement, it skyrocketed my motivation and confidence to keep doing it. Um, so there's a lot to that.
Well, let me say that I think probably, okay, well, one, there's no parent like, Venus and Serena Williams' dad that before their kids are born, he's like, I'm gonna have two lawyers. It's always art and sport. It's always the job that's not a regular job that their kids are gonna do. They're gonna be a dancer or an actor,
Chess
and so
player is one I know. There's a famous guy who he was like a psychology, I don't even know what he was, but he was like, I'm gonna have master chess players. And then he did. Like he,
but I
yeah,
mean, but like very very seldom do the dreams of our parents are they like regular jobs. Like, you know what I mean? They're usually probably either something they're into or something that's not like that is harder to pursue because like you're gonna need me to pursue this goal, right?
mhm,
Or allegedly, you know. But I think where it really has true support, like not, I mean, I'm sure maybe Serena and Venus Williams had to feel supported by their dad on some level. Otherwise, they would just mutinied, I feel like, right? But I think the kids that you talk about that they know what they want to do from the time they're 10 is because their parents are supportive in the way that they're supposed to be supportive, which
yeah,
is I am supportive of what you want to do.
yeah,
I'm not like you have to do the work, but like I will give you the means and the support to do the
right.
work if you show that you really want to do the work. I'm in this place right now because I grew up in a small town in Texas. Everybody went to regular schools. There were no art schools or no dance schools or nothing like that. Everybody went to Edna High School and they went to Edna Junior High and we all did the same thing, right? But my daughter, and the world has changed since the 80s. My daughter is way into music, way into dancing, way into acting. She wants to put on performances all the time. And I've really been thinking, like, am I going to send her to a regular school?
Uh,
Because, like, am I doing the best by her
mm,
if that's something she really wants to pursue? And oh, by the way, she can always learn her letters and numbers and learn how to read and write. And, like, they'll do that stuff along the way. And she'll probably be good enough to do that. And oh, by the way, if she were to become her purpose or what she really wants to be, dancer, actor, whatever, she only needs to read and write to be able to sign contracts and make, you know what I mean? Like sign bills. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's important to have all these skills that we talk about. But we don't talk about how important it is to have these other skills and have an outlet and a purpose and a reason and drive. You know what I mean? Like when people go to their 9 to 5 and they're like data clerk entry people, they didn't dream of being data clerk entry people. They dreamed of being a dancer. You know what I mean? So if you want to make your data clerk entry better, just go take a dance class. I don't care how old you are.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? And
yes,
invest into yourself. I think that's for me personally with my clients, the one thing that I can't get them to do enough of is invest in themselves in ways that maybe I think are beneficial that they don't necessarily, they understand like drinking water, sleeping well, eating good food, doing meditation. They understand these other things that I ask them outside of that. They don't, it's like it's like it's silly. It's like it's their parents' thoughts. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you can't do that. Who says? You know what I mean? I spent the last like 6 months learning to dribble a basketball. Let me tell you, I'm pretty damn good. I'm not taking somebody off the dribble. You know what I mean? I'm not just like crossing somebody over and leaving them in the dust, but I'm way better than I was 6 months ago. And it's been awesome to learn a skill at like 48 and not like
yeah,
have any judgment around that like everyone else in the gym is watching this 48-year-old dude that can barely fucking dribble like become a better and like the dumb drills I put myself through the whole thing. Like I don't worry about it because I have goals. You know what I mean? I have things like in dribbling a basketball, that's something I want to do. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take that much to invest in myself in that little way to get benefits from it. Because really what it's done is it's told me that if I work hard at anything, I can make progress. And that progress is really up to me. And there might be limitations on my progress, but that doesn't mean there's not different directions. So if I get limited in one way or shut down in one way, it doesn't mean I can't take it somewhere else. And I think, these kids coming out of the school, hopefully what happens is if they don't graduate in the 1% and they don't get the guaranteed jobs, they don't stop dancing because they just went to the greatest school there is. That should benefit you in some way, the time and effort and practice that you put behind your actions.
Yeah, well, and this comes back to one of our recurring conversations, which is internal versus external validation. And I think no matter how successful or unsuccessful, like, and by which I mean recognized by other people versus what you're talking about with the basketball, which is awesome, by the way. Anything, like, my favorite thing is people doing things regardless of any kind of external validation, because that, I feel like, is the spirit. That's the only hope you have for committing to something. Now, it depends on the person, though, right? I mean, I'll rephrase that. Doing something regardless of external validation, I think, is the only way that you can commit to something reliably but joyfully. Because I'm sure I've talked about this on the podcast before. I got into an Ivy League school because I busted my ass in school my whole life, right? And there were so many privileges and benefits that I had that helped me along the way. I wasn't just like born in a small town, and right. I had tons of support. I was sent to great schools, et cetera, et cetera. But I busted my ass to get to, what a lot of people would deem top tier in this specific thing, which is school. I wouldn't even say intelligence, school. And it didn't make me happy, At the end of the day, I don't think that was like a super, super joyful pursuit. I liked some aspects of school, but I realized once I got to this goal that I think a lot of people would maybe aspire to, it's like, oh, well, this actually wasn't super duper worth it to me. I'm not enjoying myself here. I'm not enjoying it, having achieved this goal. I don't think it was a waste of time per se, but it certainly wasn't giving me the kind of joy that I think is, I don't know, just like necessary to live a happy life. Because, and you do hear those stories, right, of people that do reach the top in their field, but it wasn't for the right reasons, and so they're not happy with it. So that's where I get into this questioning place of like, yes, it's so awesome to be at the top, but if you spent your whole life trying to get there and it wasn't something that you truly liked, but you did it for the external validation, and it's like, well, is that worth it? That's where I think it is a question of like, is it worth it or not?
Okay, so you getting into this Ivy League school, was that your goal or was that somebody else's goal that you just took on as your goal?
Well, that's honestly, that's a big debate. My parents would say I was ridiculously driven at a really young age. And I think that is true. Like, it definitely, especially at the time, it felt like it was just coming from me. And I also picked up a lot of signals from my environment about how I got validation and attention, which I think most kids want, and that this was my best way to get validation and attention. So I like dove in on that. I don't think we can isolate one from the other. I think it was both.
I think that tell me if you think this is wrong. I think if a kid has like a goal from a very early age or a very young age, it's fair to question whose goal it is,
Yeah.
right? And I think that a lot of things that we probably think are our goals or our ideas or our dreams really aren't ours. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like
Yeah.
you don't know they're not yours because they were implanted so young. Like go back to Venus and Serena. Like, do they even know if they wanted to be anything else because all they knew was tennis?
They
You know what I'm
didn't
saying?
really have a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, but they did have a choice, but they didn't know they had a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you have dreams and goals, but you don't know if you didn't have a choice in those because they were so much when you're younger, you know what I mean? And that's why, I asked my daughter the other day what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she said a firefighter.
So cute.
while she's performing a dance number for me. You know what I mean? So I know she hasn't decided. And when she comes across an idea that seems like it sticks, you know what I mean? I'm going to put some support behind that and say, well, what would you like to do? How can I make this happen? How can we make this like better for you and not make it mine and make it hers? And I mean, for me, like I'm sure every parent really um, thrives and is so proud when their kids excel.
Yeah, at anything.
But I feel like I can say this confidently. You would be so much more proud and so much more like grateful and just if they did it without you, your shit, like
Yeah,
you button
totally.
you will be like I am the proudest of my daughter when she does things that maybe we've talked about but like I didn't mention or say directly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's when I'm the proudest of her. Like when she takes on the responsibility of her own and takes on, and I reward in those moments. We do a sticker chart, and she'll do things like she'll go, "Hey, Daddy, I'm gonna put my shoes away. Can I get a sticker?" And I'm like, "That's not how this works." But then she'll put her shoes away by herself, and sometimes she won't even say anything to me. And then when I notice it, I go, "Did you put your shoes away?" She's like, "Yeah," and I go, "You get a sticker." And so I'm trying to show her that like these are the things that we just do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that you know, you're not beholden to my ideas. Like, these are just general ideas of life. And I want to support, I feel like I messed it up, but I'm
No.
trying to support in every way, not just one way or this way, in every way as her as a kid, because I'm going to feel the best when I'm, when she's growing in a way she doesn't need me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I kind of did that too. You know what I mean? Like I kind of, but she's doing that. She's doing more of it. You know what I mean? And that I don't know. I would feel more proud as a parent to feel like that personally.
Yes. Oh, man. I feel
Okay,
like we could talk
so
we could
okay,
talk about this forever, couldn't we?
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so before we get out of here, what was your biggest takeaway,
Mm.
like just personally, right now, sitting as Hannah right now, not going back to Hannah when she was young and the things like you right now, what was your biggest takeaway?
That the things that give me genuine joy, regardless of any kind of external validation, are things that are really, really worth my time and effort. Now, it's hard, I think, or for me, it is objectively harder to discipline myself or motivate myself to do things that don't impact other people, right? I pour the obvious like the majority of my energy and talent and time I pour into my job, which I think is it just makes sense, right? That's what I do for the majority of my waking hours. And it is this show, I think, reignited or ignited, reminded me of the immense satisfaction and joy of pouring things into your passion that don't necessarily go anywhere in terms of external validation or money or success, but are actually the spice of life. Like I was watching this, I'm like, fuck, that's life. Like this is something that is just so powerful because it's not just duty, it's passion. And so that's kind of what I took away. It's I want to spend more time doing the things I genuinely love that aren't for other people for money. They're just the things I like to do.
Well, let me say this. This is just my opinion, but everything you do potentially has an impact on others. Even the things you do
Yeah.
by yourself when you're by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I kind of roll is like I roll with the idea of that all my actions and everything I do has an impact on others. So and as an example, how I take care of myself has an impact on like other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of
So
course.
I invest into that, because like it's extremely important, and especially if you want to get to a place where you're doing a passion or a purpose and you don't want external validation, you have to look at all your actions as a beneficial action for you and everyone else, because then I'm not looking for any rewards. It's just like what I do all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. One last question. Are you going to watch more of this show?
You know what? It's so funny. My girlfriend loves dancing shows,
Oh, yay.
and so I watched that first episode for this, and then I went to her and I go, I do not know you if you don't like this show.
Yeah.
And s-
Yeah.
and so I told her, I go, you know, we're always kind of looking for something to do together, because we do a lot of things apart. And I require a lot of personal time, and she does too. But when we can find something like that that's like easy to connect on, so I was like, watch the first episode to see if you like it, and then maybe we could watch it together. And then maybe I'll have more, maybe I have more feedback for you. You know what I mean? Maybe,
Because there's a lot more to the show.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I've only seen one episode. You know, obviously there's characters in the show, and so I'm kind of curious of where these characters are going to go, and you know, the things they're going to battle. And I really like the teacher. I really like to hear her talk. I like her
Yeah.
motivate the way, you know, the way she talks. It's like I as a hard ass as the teacher is in the show, I feel like you can tell she absolutely loves her job,
Oh, yeah. Big time.
and and I feel like she felt that way before she was making a lot of money,
Oh, yeah.
and you can feel that like in the show.
Mm.
And I think that that is the ultimate, right? When you can love, like when you can love something and not get paid, like there's no stopping you. It's unstoppable, because there's
Yeah.
nothing to hold you back at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Because most people get held back by monetary or something that needs to happen when you do the thing. But if you just do the thing because you love it, you don't have to worry about, I mean, the reactions and the money or whatever else is just bonus to you doing the thing that you love, you know?
Yeah. And what I love about her is not only is she obsessed with dance, she genuinely loves to teach
Yeah.
kids which I just think is really beautiful, even though
Yeah.
she's like a total scary hard ass.
See, but okay. Let me say one more thing, and then we'll get out of here. Okay. There was a girl in the show, and she had to do an audition with that teacher, and that teacher really busted the balls of everybody in the class.
Yeah.
And the girl came out of the class, and she was like, "I feel like it's really unfair because, you know, I gave everything I had, and she told me I didn't give enough." You know, and I've had that happen to me before. You know, and that's in that scenario, like for me, it's kind of like if I gave 100%, and then that another person says I didn't, like, unfortunately I just look at it as that's their opinion,
Mm.
because I know how much effort I gave. Now if someone challenges me, I might try to give more effort. You know what I mean? Like there was another girl that she was like, I love when she yells at me because it just drives me to,
Yeah.
you know, and like in that particular scenario, I think that girl, she doesn't need any external validation. She needs the external, like, criticism to fire up her internal validation of like, nah, I'm gonna be better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that you know, that if if you're looking for external validation and you don't find it, well, that's unfortunate, but that's not how that kind of works. You know what I mean? External
Yeah.
validation comes when it's given, not when you take it or want it or you want it. And
Yeah.
so if you want external validation, you're going to have to find the internal validation to do it every single day as best you can all the time, to have somebody external validate you. It doesn't work in the other order, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Well, another great episode. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Hannah, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
All
Bye,
right,
Scott.
bye.
Bye, everyone.